I'm Stevie. Hi, I'm Stevie. Hi, I'm Stevie. Hi, I'm stevieboebi. Hi guys, I'm Stevie.
Hi guys, I'm Stevie.
Howdy y'all. It's me, Stevie. Hi guys, I'm Stevie. Hi guys, I'm Stevie.
Hi guys, I'm Stevie.
I'm stevieboebi.
I'm Stevie.
I'm Stevie.
I'm Stevie.
I'm Stevie.
I'm Stevie.
Stevie. Hi guys, I'm Stevie. Sorry, I had to do that one last time. It's been such an honor and a privilege to be able to do content creation as my full-time job for so many years. I fully committed to doing sex and relationship education videos 10 years ago, and that was literally me finding my calling. But I don't know how much longer I can do this. What I don't want is to disappear from the internet forever without fully being transparent and explaining exactly what's been going on. So here goes. Here's kind of how I view my career. Up here is 2019, and I honestly felt like my career trajectory was exactly where I wanted it to be. I did an international speaking tour. I was on the cover of a queer magazine. I premiered my first short film about my experience in childhood as a homeless teenager. I was even writing a book. I also did not do it alone. I had a whole team of people that helped me make all of those things happen, like writers and editors and a literary agent and a manager, and I was able to pay all of them. It was sustainable. Now in 2025, I have so little in common with 2019 Stevie that I do not even know who she is. Guys, my situation is really dire, and I'm sure those of you who have been following me for a while have noticed a shift. Well, a bunch of shifts, and I owe you an explanation. So what happened? Great question. The short answer is it's my fault. And please bear with me while I tell you the long version. Okay, so even though I started posting videos in 2006 and doing it full time since like 2011, I didn't come out until 2013. I know this might sound so wild now, but marriage equality hadn't even passed back then. So straight couples had over 1,000 more rights than us. And I genuinely thought that staying in the closet was the smarter, safer move. That's really hard to say out loud. But at the same time, I wasn't delusional. I knew you couldn't build a fulfilling career by erasing yourself and pandering to the male gaze. But I wasn't thinking about fulfillment. I was thinking about survival. I was scared that coming out would ruin any chance I possibly had at a stable career. Like, we already had Ellen. Surely society wouldn't allow 2 lesbians to succeed. You know what I mean? And even for the people who were out and weren't Ellen, there were all these rules that you had to follow to be like a palatable lesbian. All of the rules were unspoken. And I did not want to play that game because I knew I would lose it. I am not very Disney. So when I found out that there were lesbians on YouTube and they were out making content, it finally clicked, like Kaylin and Lucy and Hannah Hart and Megan and Whitney. If I was gagging for representation in content, then obviously millions of others were too. And maybe the internet had better and different rules. So I decided I was down to play the game. Let's go. So I came out and I watched my audience insights flip from 97% male to 90% female, like overnight. That fear of mine being proven wrong was massive for me. And then I found fulfillment in showing others that they can feel safe being who they are too. I'm living proof, right? But obviously it wasn't that easy for me. You know, that whole palatable thing? Yeah. I did take a risk because there's no such thing as going back in the closet. I was like, come on, what's the worst that can happen? It's the 20-teens. It's not like there's a digital homophobic serial killer on the loose, right? Okay, back to survival. Sorry, it's time to talk about money. Like, you know that being a full-time content creator isn't free. Not only do I have living expenses just like everybody else, I also have business expenses, but also the content itself costs money to make. And the higher quality the content, the more it costs to make it. People think that creators blow up because they have this high quality, fancy content. But actually, unless you have VIP access to like the bank of mom and dad or a bunch of credit cards to max out, you have to wait to afford to get fancy with your content. You post content, hope it does well, and then use the money from that to put into the next video to make it a little less janky. So where does that money come from? I'm so glad you asked. So the 3 main ways that creators make money is through ads, sponsorships, and Patreon. We love ads. Ads are the reason that so much content on the internet is free for you to watch. Sites like YouTube sell ad space to brands and then a little text pop up or a video play before, during, or after the content that you're watching. Then YouTube takes that money and then splits splits it with creators. And listen, YouTube cares about ads a lot. It's basically their only moneymaker. But when something is so desperately needed, it becomes really powerful, too powerful. And around 2016, there was a shift. And this is all really boring, but I'm gonna make it more interesting, hopefully. So picture this. Advertisers are like these really big, wealthy donors at the top. YouTube is like middle management, and all the creators are the employees. Employees are just trying to do their job without getting fired or being replaced by AI. I feel like I'm telling a Bible story. The Garden of Eden was just beautiful and wonderful. And then came the adpocalypse. Anyway, the adpocalypse was a thing. Go ahead, Google it. Ads used to play on almost all videos pretty equally. But then when journalists started writing about how they saw ads playing on extremist YouTube videos, basically like paying people to spread hateful ideas, advertisers freaked out. They were all like, oh, we don't want our shampoo commercials playing on controversial content. And then YouTube's middle management, right? So they were just like, hey guys, sorry, we have tens of millions of employees uploading millions of videos like every day. How are we supposed to find the Yahtzees? And then all of the overlords with all of the money were like, we literally do not care if it's impossible to fix. If you don't fix it, you can kiss billions of dollars goodbye. And then they actually did it. They pulled funding and created a boycott of YouTube. So obviously YouTube panicked, like went into full-on corporate meltdown. All of the managers locked themselves in a room and scribbled on a whiteboard for 48 hours. And then when they emerged, they were holding the robot. A Yahtzee hunting robot is a brilliant idea, honestly. Is there a video game about that? I bet there is. Anyway, so the robot was built to flag, label, and sort every piece of content on the website. So then they could give the big rich donors what they wanted, to be able to pick and choose which employees they wanted to pay for and which employees they didn't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. Spoiler alert, the robot was like moody, terrible, and broken. And I'm gonna explain how and why, but first I need you guys to know that literally none of the employees knew anything at the time. YouTube officially, publicly was actively saying they wanted anyone and everyone to be an employee here. I don't know, I just need you guys to realize how wild that is. It's kind of like if you were to implement a dress code at work, but it's a secret one that no one knows what it is, and then you don't tell any of your employees about it. So then all the employees like, just keep doing our thing, keep showing up to work, keep posting videos. And then when payday comes, it's like $2.50 with no explanation, just vibes. Anyway, basically, so like we didn't know at the time, but now we do. So the robot's job was to sort all content into these 5 new categories, which is like the new dress code. Then they let their big rich donors pick one of these 3 options for their shampoo commercials. So then creators met in the break room and are like discussing insights and comparing paychecks. Some of them noticed their views had tanked. Some of them noticed that their subscribers weren't being notified when they posted new videos. And some people noticed that people were being unfollowed completely. And some of us noticed that if you literally searched our exact video title and name of our channel, that we wouldn't be showing up in search results at all. And it didn't make any sense, because why did my makeup video make $10,000 and yours made $50? You know what I mean? So it was kind of like realizing that some of us had been downgraded to like non-union, part-time volunteer interns without ever being told. So obviously we were like, let's meet with the manager and ask them to explain. The manager was like, what? No, everything is fine. And if it's not fine, it must be a glitch. Don't worry, it'll be sorted out soon. And then all the employees were like, okay, but the new payroll robot keeps firing all the queer people, so like there's obviously a problem. Just quick aside, because this happened later and it's not in chronological order, but YouTube had always denied that there was a way for this robot and the algorithm to categorize LGBT creators. Well, to categorize LGBT content at all at this point. Also, don't even get me started on when we caught YouTube's restricted mode banning all LGBT content, proving that they were categorizing. Also, by the way, the robot was only pointing at the creators instead of pointing at the big rich donors. And there were actual Yahtzees up there. But when ads made by hate groups were found being targeted to play in front of LGBT creator videos, it pissed off the wrong person.
This is despicable and gross and disgusting, and I hate it so much. They're taking their hateful advertisements and putting them up on supportive, prideful, loving content on YouTube. I do not want these people's money. Do not sell their BS to my people.
So obviously there was a pattern. It looked like LGBT content itself was considered sensitive material. The part that is really interesting, I think, though, is that every time we would call them out on this, they would deny it, give us a compliment, and then reiterate that advertisers had rights. Like, advertisers have rights to their comfort on what videos they feel comfortable with, which is so weird. No, no, no. We love you, queers, but don't forget who the boss is. So step one, YouTube blames the robot for any mistakes. And then when accused of silencing and censorship, they bring up the rights of advertisers.
There are advertisers in the world who don't want to advertise on anything that might be the least bit controversial. And so YouTube created a thinky machine that decides for advertisers, like, what is the box of stuff that has nothing controversial in it. It seems like if you put words like gay, LGBTQ+, transgender, lesbian in titles and tags, your video is more likely to get demonetized. Why? We're leaving to the side and saying that there's a computer making a bad decision, and hopefully this is something that YouTube wants to fix. Right, YouTube?
And I feel like this is when we all kind of collectively were like, oh, right. The advertisers called your bluff, and now you're basically a slave to them. You have to do whatever they say. They get to be homophobic and you'll allow it now. Okay, so this part is just my opinion, and YouTube has always denied it, but like, come on. If a video is ad or age restricted, YouTube has absolutely no incentive to promote it on the platform. So why would they do that? If I was a profit motivated business, like at a brick and mortar store, why would I advertise all of the free stuff that people could just take and then hide the stuff that costs money that makes me money in the back? You know what I mean? So it's not just about paying creators for their work. It's about like silencing their voices based on invisible and secret categories and rules. Back to the story. So YouTube finally admitted, oh, sorry, did we not tell you? Even robots make mistakes. But we have great news. Now we're gonna let you see which videos the robot hates. And if you disagree, you can appeal it and we'll have a human double check. So this was great. An appeals process was a great next step, but it's not perfect because the appeals process took days to get a human to get around to approving it. And the bulk of your video views and when the algorithm is judging whether they want to promote it happens within the first couple days anyway. Anyway, more on this later. The robot wasn't just making mistakes. It was actively incentivizing Disney type content or content that it thought was Disney, and then penalizing anything else that it could possibly flag as not family friendly. So then creators started being like, this is censorship, stop it. And then YouTube was like, hi, gay. Let me read their actual statement. We are not telling you what to create. Each and every creator on YouTube is unique and contributes to the vibrancy of YouTube. However, advertisers also have a choice about where to show their ads. Imagine being an employee at a company and complaining that you weren't getting paid, and then the manager responds by being like, no, we love having you work here. See, my boss has a right to choose whether he pays you or not. Wild. But the new transparency was an amazing thing because now we could see the ad restriction or the demonetization status of each video, which we couldn't see before. So we laid out bait for the robot, trying to test it to see if we could get it to bite. Because don't forget, they only told us that the video had limited ads. They did not tell us why. So what do you think happened? Surely the robot wouldn't bite bait that was in direct contradiction to all of YouTube's public statements and community guidelines and promises that they made us, right? Surely they would never shove diversity and inclusion propaganda down our throats and then secretly train the robot to behave differently, would they? So what did we do? We tried to please the robot. Since we weren't allowed to actually meet it and find out what the actual dress code was, we had to guess. Make our content algorithm friendly, self-censor, reword video titles, avoid certain topics. Not because we wanted to, but because we were scared we had no other choice. And that's what happens when advertisers get put on a pedestal. Creators just get crushed underneath it. Okay, so what does all this have to do with me specifically? Great question. There are two big ways that this plays out: demonetization and age restriction. So if your video gets demonetized, it's basically like shadow banned, I guess. But age restriction, that's even worse. It's like this little 18+ checkbox that is like the kiss of death. Remember this stuff that the advertisers can choose? If you see that little box, what do you assume? Something corny, right? Yeah, a lot of advertisers don't want to be associated with something inappropriate. Meanwhile, it's the girlfriend tag. Why do I need to upload in my driver's license to watch a gay person bake a banana bread. Also, kids deserve to know about sex way before they have it. Okay, here's the real tea. YouTube has never liked me. I've been demonetized, age restricted, shadow banned, you name it. And I know that it's because I'm a loudmouth lesbian who talks about sex and puts it in my video titles, and I say curse words. I'm just not their type, okay? And that's okay with me. I don't want to be palatable. I don't think I could be palatable, honestly. But it depends on what it costs me. It's not just about the paycheck. It's about making my content unsearchable and inaccessible to the very people I make it for, queer teens and young adults. And if I can't reach the people that I'm trying to talk to, what is the actual point of any of this? And I'm not the only one. There were like years and literal class action lawsuits of queer creators who were accusing YouTube of discriminating against them. Meanwhile, cishet YouTubers with the same view counts were making like 6 figures just from ads. And queer creators were lucky to get 4 figures for millions of views. And when I'm talking about that comparison, I'm talking about videos who actually made it through this whole invisible secret gauntlet and actually were approved and monetized for ads. Even when the algorithm doesn't reject your video, YouTube still decides what you're worth. You watching this specifically right now. I'm so sorry, this is boring. I'll say it quickly. There's this thing called CPM, which is how much advertisers pay per 1,000 views. Some creators get $25 and some of us get 3 cents. So they weren't just devaluing the queer creator, they were devaluing the viewers of the content, while at the same time incentivizing the other guys. So yeah, best case scenario, I'm underpaid. Worst case scenario, I'm invisible. My videos don't reach people that need them. My subscribers won't even see them. I could post like a masterpiece of educational content and then YouTube would quietly like slide it into a junk drawer. So when you see creators begging YouTube to stop demonetizing them, it's them begging for the worst of the options, begging to be let out of a cage for crumbs. And that is enough for some people. It's offensive enough and volatile enough to make them just leave the internet forever. Like, how many times can you sit and watch a straight person get a cookie for the same thing that you get punched in the face for before you just like go home and quit forever? You know what I mean? I've watched so many queer creators be pushed offline over the years, either by YouTube not protecting them from harassment or this type of discriminatory treatment, or both. And I know this is extremely privileged or even just lucky of me, but I wasn't one of them. I guess until maybe now. I've stayed online creating content for almost 20 years. 20 years, that cannot be right. That's such a long time. The first video I posted that went viral was in 2006. And that's when YouTube invited me to start putting ads on my videos. And it was me and my school friends sitting and talking about, oh my God, I can't even say what it was without getting this video demonetized probably. Backdoor shenanigans. How about that? It was about backdoor shenanigans. Anyway, what is this called? Surely it's like digital gentrification. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. Let's talk real numbers. So remember at the beginning of the video when I said that content creation isn't free? So this is how it's supposed to work. You post something, it does well, you make money from ads, and then you use that money to make the next content, right? So let's pretend that YouTube doesn't hate me and I have a CPM of 10. LOL, I wish. And I get 100,000 views on a video. That's $1,000. Cool. So let's budget for the next one. Manager takes 20%, $150 for research and writing, and $350 for special effects and editing. That leaves me with $300 profit. Let's pretend like I don't have anything else to spend it on. Okay. So now let's say I upload that video and it gets flagged because I say strips of paper in the video and the robot thinks that I mean the other kind of strip. So I challenge it and I ask for human review. 48 hours later, they respond, OMG, you are totally right. This video is suitable for advertisers. Congrats, you have ads now. Totally fine then, right? I still get my $1,000 because they're the ones that made a mistake, right? Wrong. In those 48 hours, the video got 80,000 views. So I only get my 10 CPM on the remaining 20,000. So I only make $200 on a video that cost me $700 to make. So I'm negative $500 now. And when this happens over and over again, when your income is constantly being pulled out from under you, it doesn't just strangle your ability to budget and like makes your quality of content suffer. It makes you overthink every single word, every video title, every video topic, every thumbnail. You start policing your own creativity to survive. My friend recently told me, people definitely assume that you're rich, Stevie. You should tell them the truth. So let's be real. Here is screenshots from my AdSense over the last year. My actual CPM/RPM on YouTube Shorts is 16 cents. And on YouTube videos, it's 51 cents, which is actually higher than it used to be. So if I get 1 million views on this video you're watching right now, I will make $500. And also, it's not like I'm like going against YouTube's rules. They say sex education is allowed on YouTube. It's in their community guidelines as fully monetizable, which is a lie. Okay, I probably can't say it's a lie. Allegedly, they say you can fully monetize sex education videos. Anyway, so that's why I have never had a choice. I've had to rely on Patreon and sponsorships for my business to survive. And 5 years ago, it was kind of working. Even though it wasn't fair, I found a way to not need AdSense. So sponsorships and Patreon are both related to what happened next and why it's my fault. But one more thing before I do story time. Here's all my bad decisions. Let's talk about sponsorships. Controversial, I know. People have so many opinions about influencers and content creators doing sponsored content. But here's the truth. Sponsors are lifesavers, especially for marginalized creators. While YouTube is out here pretending to shield viewers from harmful content, which is super important and necessary. Seriously, it is. But what they also end up doing is gatekeeping access to information. And maybe I'm biased, but the most important thing to not gatekeep access to information to is sex education. And YouTube say they're all about freedom of speech and amplifying diverse voices. Freedom of opportunity, right? But not if you're talking about sex. Not if you're queer. Not if you're trying to educate and empower people about their bodies, actually. Also, it's just really condescending. We know that this pearl clutching, think of the children type stuff is counterproductive at best and a safeguarding issue at worst. I am thinking of the children. I'm thinking of the children who need this information the most. Anyway, that's why sponsorships are important. No, really, instead of begging for pennies from a platform that clearly thinks that my videos are the same thing as corn, I can go directly to the brands that know that isn't true. Ones that actually care about supporting this kind of content. Okay, here's where it gets tricky. Okay, it's no nuance November, so let's make overarching claims. Some people could say this content creator over here is authentic and trustworthy. They don't do sponsors. And that one over there is greedy and a sellout because they do sponsors. And I need everyone to know that this is so damaging. Because why was YouTube so groundbreakingly important in the first place? Because it turned exclusionary traditional media on its head. Little Stevie had no one, no role models, no adults telling the truth, much less queer ones. If creators who speak about sex or queerness or even talking about their own traumatic experiences have to take sponsors just to survive, but then lose the trust of their audience for doing it, that is a disaster. And it's even worse when you zoom out. The creators that don't really need sponsorships, right? Like, they tend to be the ones that are already doing pretty okay. They're already winning. It's like, thank God you don't do these every other video like some people I know. That is proof that you care about us more than you do about the money. And then creators like me are the sellout. Okay, here's the next problem. Brands that do support sex education, they are mostly products and services that are considered not appropriate for minors or things that YouTube doesn't like for other reasons, right? So even if the content itself is suitable for minors, like teaching young people that solo connection with your body is healthy and that shame is a poison peddled by purity culture, the sponsor itself makes it risky. So a video like that is literally public health content, right? It aligns with YouTube's own community guidelines. It's age appropriate. It's backed by science, blah, blah, you get it. I'm not new to this rodeo. I'll upload it and best case scenario, I'll get limited ads. So I'll probably make like $5 on it, but at least I will show up in search and it won't do the junk drawer thing and it won't be age restricted, hopefully. But because making content is not free, I get a sponsor. And let's say it's a company that makes those things that you use to wrap it up. I have to include talking points and also make it relevant to my audience while also avoiding explicit language because YouTube says that explicit is bad and implicit is okay, but only sometimes. Anyway. Oh, also, when you're talking about products, you cannot talk too much about pleasure. It's fine to discuss risk, fine to say don't get pregnant, but God forbid you say that something just might make you feel good, because if that flags the robot and it notices that you have a product in your video, you're blocked. It's like getting fired from your volunteer position because your superior actually doesn't like your side gig that makes you money. So now obviously I'm stuck in a paradox. I need a sponsor to be able to afford to make the video, but including the sponsor in the content could get the video buried or age restricted or demonetized, or all three. Meanwhile, and this part really boils my blood, the videos that are about this exact same topic that do show up in YouTube search, they're promoting shame and homophobia and sex negativity, purity culture, misinformation, and Jesus. But those are fine because it's family friendly. Cool, wonderful. Anyway, so then if this happens, YouTube isn't happy with me, the sponsor isn't happy with me because the video got way less views and interaction than expected, obviously. And worst of all, I did all of this. I risked potentially eroding the faith and trust in my audience because I'm promoting a brand. And then the potential people who have never heard of me, who might have found me through that video, can't because I'm restricted from coming up in search. And then they are left running into the arms of sex negative content because that is what is presented to them when searching instead of my content. YouTube is selling me to advertisers and they're like, you're a really hard sell. And since I'd rather sell myself to you, I have to sell you to sponsors. And you can help by not buying that damaging rhetoric about like sponsorships making creators evil. If you become loud cheerleaders instead of silent hecklers, you're helping fight the fight. You know, I really wish I didn't have to think about anyone other than my audience, like providing you valuable content. I need your help because I don't want to work for them. I want to work for you. If you value my content or any other marginalized creators, specifically like being vulnerable online or whatever, you can make yourself more valuable as a viewer. When you see a sponsor, like and save and comment on the video. Even better if the comment is about the sponsor. If there is an offer or a link or a free trial, just click through and sign up. It helps so much. But it's not your fault, it's mine. So here's what I promised. Story time. Here's all of my bad decisions. And this story time is gonna start out with some piping hot tea. Are you ready? So around 2018, I got invited to an event and there was a YouTube higher up there. I told him, I want YouTube to stop demonetizing my videos. How can I make that happen? He told me that they were working on it and he said that they do not want the algorithm to target queer creators. And then he said, in the meantime, maybe don't put any queer words in your video titles. I know. Wait, there's more. I told him I have queer friends who are using those exact words in their video titles and they're not getting demonetized as much as me. And I also have straight sex educator friends who are making videos about explicit sex education topics who are not getting as demonetized as me. So somehow I was being hit harder than the average queer creator and harder than the average sex educator. And do you know what he said to me? He said, we do not want the algorithm to be triggered by queer content, but we do want the algorithm to be triggered by sex content. So basically, the algorithm was profiling queer people because it assumed they were going to be making controversial or inappropriate content, effectively making us all guilty until proven innocent, but everyone else was innocent until proven guilty. And because I was assumed guilty and then found guilty, I was But this was brand new information for me. Before this convo, I thought that there was a glitch making this robot not vibe with the Rainbow Squad. And all we had to do was complain. And then eventually it would be made to play hide and seek fairly, you know, follow the rules. No, actually, your gay friends are all totally fine as long as they follow all the rules. And your straight friends are the actual target, but you're the only one getting caught because you're gay. So I was like, is there anything I can do? And he was like, your only shot would be to stop making explicit sex ed content for a year or two and hope that the algorithm learns to trust you. If it assumes guilty and finds innocent over and over again, it could lead to your channel being whitelisted. And I was like, my big fat lesbian you f***ing At first I didn't listen. I told myself, I will not be silenced. But it definitely shook me. I realized that this was definitely not a game. There's a digital homophobic serial killer on the loose, and I'm enemy homo number one. And the advice that I was given was to run and hide. And guys, I'm really sorry, not to be dramatic, but taking his advice felt like someone had told me to go and marry a man for a year or two and wait for people to stop calling me a lesbian. I would rather be burned at the stake. You know what I mean? Shut up. I have a martyr complex. I'm a triple cancer. I'm a quadruple cancer, actually. I'm getting so angry angry I made the sun go down. Allow me to get self-righteous for a second. But I don't make content because it's fun. I make content to correct a wrong done to us because queer people were wronged in the past and it deserves to be corrected. Honestly, not even just the past, it's the present and the future. Queer people of all ages deserve sex education that is made for them by other queer people. And YouTube claims that sex education is allowed on their platform with full monetization. So why am I being told to run and hide instead of being protected as an important voice to an underserved community? And then I started thinking about who I make these videos for. Little Stevie. Little Stevie that wasn't taught the difference between a vulva and a vagina when she was testifying against her child harmer. Little Stevie who was harshly punished for telling another kid what mouth stuff was because he asked and she had an encyclopedia. Little Stevie who thought that financial survival and being an out lesbian were two things that could never happen to the same person. I felt like I couldn't betray her, but I also couldn't allow her fears to be proved right. I couldn't afford it, honestly. But little Stevie lives inside of me, not in the real world, right? But the real people actually benefiting from my work are like her. And at the time that I was considering taking this advice, there were some more queer sex educators popping up on YouTube. More voices, more opinions, more help. And it wasn't just my responsibility. Right? Yes, of course we need more, not less, but are you guys seeing this homophobic serial killer pointing right at me? And I had to ask myself if hiding was the brave thing to do. But also, am I helping anyone if I let myself get taken out? This is so dramatic. I'm so sorry. And if I don't fight against queerphobic advertisers and discriminatory platforms, what example does that set? Spoiler alert, guys, I eventually took this terrible advice. And it was my first huge mistake. But before I gave in, I was absolutely spiraling. Trying to keep everyone medium happy all at the same time was a serious what's the algorithm friendly way of saying that? A mind boggle, a full-time mind boggle. What do you mean the sun's gone down since I started filming this video? There's been a fiasco. The bed might look different in a sec.
It's literally soaking.
It's soaking wet. So, to get a green light for my audience, I needed to make honest, valuable, explicit content, right? But that same content would get me a red light from YouTube. And a red light from YouTube means that my audience would never even see it, which then effectively moves them from a green light to a yellow light because like no one's even seeing it, so it's not even really a green light, you know what I mean? So I was like, what if I aim for yellow lights all around, right? Yellow light from YouTube meant that they'd only be kind of mad and would approve the video for like limited ads after the appeals process that takes however many days. But the video wouldn't be buried. A yellow light from the sponsor meant they'd still write the check, but when they give me their script, I would push back and be like, I need to use euphemisms and blah, 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 which usually meant less money. Aiming for a yellow light from the audience meant that the content is kind of watered down, but I wouldn't lose trust 100%, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, I did all of that intentional yellow light across the board. Then YouTube's human, whoever they are, could just decide to side with the serial killer robot, and then boom, red light demonetized. Age restricted, shadow realm. So then I thought, what if I just stopped caring about everyone except for my audience green light? Bold title, real and explicit. Yeah, I'll get a red from YouTube and maybe definitely a yellow or a red from sponsor, but at least it's honest. You know? And I tried that for a bit, but over time it catches up with you. Views tank, sponsors pull out, and then eventually it leads to like audiences losing interest because the compounded effect of that makes it to where I can't afford to create that high quality content, or I can't make as much of it. So it's unsustainable. I was being squeezed, and when I'm squeezed hard enough, I run. I ran straight into the arms of that terrible advice that was pitched as a solution. So then I married a man. Anyway, what do you guys think? Did that solution save me? Of course it didn't. But I actually thought it would work. I was like, if I have anything, it's resilience. If anyone can, I can definitely outrun a digital serial killer. I just need to figure out how to like still eat and pay my bills while I'm running, you know what I mean? But Then I realized that I actually had two homes. I had my online home, my YouTube channel, and then I had my real life one where my real body lived and I had rent and bills and all that stuff, right? So I was being hunted in my digital home, and as long as that robot was targeting me there, it could actually harm me in my real life one because that was jeopardizing my financial security. So if I wanted to win, I needed to make myself have less to lose. So I decided step one, I had to pick one house and fight to keep that one standing. A normal person probably would have chosen their real life house, not me becoming homeless again for the plot. Am I right? Oh, ridiculous. Anyway, little Stevie doesn't live in a house. She lives inside of me. She doesn't need a house. She needs me. My house in Los Angeles was so hard to say goodbye to, though. It was the most stable home I'd ever had in my entire life. And it was also the longest place I'd ever lived somewhere. Longest place? The longest amount of time I'd ever lived somewhere since I was like 14. And it was rent controlled. But the squeeze made me vulnerable, and becoming less vulnerable made me optimistic. So step two, put all my money and energy into redecorating my online house to look like I'm a Disney palatable lesbian. Hey, evil robot, nothing to see here. Look, you're wrong about me. So every time you flag me, you're going to be proven wrong over and over again. But aiming for a green light from YouTube is extremely risky, obviously, because people know me well enough to know that that's not authentic. I built my audience on being a loudmouth lesbian who talks about sex and says curse words, remember? So suddenly becoming not that is obviously going to be a betrayal. So how do I keep them at least medium happy while I'm running from the serial killer robot, you know? Which leads me to step three, travel content. So I promised myself that I wouldn't make couples content again until I was actually married to them. So I was like, oh my God, brilliant idea. I can just say that the reason I'm moving out of my Los Angeles house is because I'm traveling Europe for a year. Content creators needing to like perform success when it's not actually true is like a whole different video. But anyway, I felt like that was perfect. I made this video after I sold everything I owned that didn't fit in 2 suitcases, got on a flight to Florida to make sure I changed my official address, and then hopped on a one-way flight to London. This is where it gets good. So when I landed, I took out my phone, turned it off of airplane mode, and a text from my friend popped up. Oh yeah, did I mention that I landed January 27th, 2020? So my big plan to make travel content went down like a lead balloon. I was running from a robot serial killer that was hunting me in houses, and then COVID made everyone stay inside houses. Anyway, the British press found it hilarious. So I couldn't make travel content. And also, I couldn't not have a physical house. And this is when I should have abandoned the entire plan and went back to talking about anatomy and and STIs and At the time, I still believed that if I actually followed the advice that it would still work. Wait out the algorithm, be quiet. I really thought that if I quit before the 1 to 2 year mark, that I'd never know. Another mistake. Anyway, running wasn't an option anymore. I had to hide. So I hid in the attic and tried not to starve. With even more expenses, visas cost thousands, and managing lives in 2 countries with 2 different currencies is not cheap. I'm also way too disabled for this shit. It wasn't hopeless. I still had my Patreon, love you guys, and I was still getting some sponsors, so I tried to stretch it. I cut half my team and gave the other half much less work. I kept telling myself that this was necessary suffering and it was only temporary. Eventually, I'd just go right back to making the content that I wanted to make, but I just had to be quiet and well-behaved and patient in the meantime. Stay hidden, let the threat pass. And I focused on cleaning up my digital house, which meant uploading palatable videos and watching the robot flag every single one of them. Then I'd click the little box to request human approval and pray. Just kidding. I'm not religious, but you get it. And I actually mean every single video. Fashion, disability, taking the driver's ed test. Every single topic of video was flagged by the robot. It felt like I was dressing up in hetero drag for like the chance to win the right to exist in my own house that I built, and everyone pointing at me and saying, something's fishy about that one. Anyway, even after I submitted them for approval, so many of them were still rejected. Me right off. I just took all of these signs to mean that I still needed to stay patient. It just wasn't whitelisted yet. Like, okay, the robot just needs a little bit more proof. Stay quiet. Keep hiding in the attic. Is this ASMR? It was like, be quiet, play it safe. disappear. To be fair, some videos were found innocent after the human approval. It gets better. Am I right? Anyway, I got a few green lights, but don't forget, I'm still losing 80% of the revenue that I would have got if the robot wasn't aiming at me because of the whole waiting period. But I was thinking maybe it's working. But also, I hugely underestimated what this would do to my mental health and to little Stevie, honestly. Before, when I like broke YouTube's rules and got punished for it, at least it was by choice and for doing what I love. It hurt, but not that bad. Now I was playing by the rules and still getting punished, which is way worse. That part was so triggering for me, and especially triggering for like little Stevie, that I felt her anger and resentment bubbling into my throat. But I had to ignore her because it's just temporary, right? Yikes. I was so exhausted and under-resourced that every video took like an entire month to make. The safe sponsors weren't paying enough, so I had to work with riskier ones and then try to make the content extra super squeaky clean so that I could like pray that the robot wouldn't notice me. But it kept aiming at me. It knew I was hiding in the attic. It would aim at me and I'd be like, it's a fashion video. And then it would lower its aim. Dyeing my armpits purple. Lower the aim. Disability. That one it actually aimed and fired at, which was going on. Aim horoscopes. Aim and lower. Anyway, other creators could take risks with sponsors because they weren't being targeted. And I was like, when is this freaking robot gonna stop aiming at me? I even went back to my roots and went back to what worked before the adpocalypse. I got married and started making couples content again. Views and interaction ticked up a little bit and it was like looking good because I was finally giving my audience something that they wanted, lesbianism. And thank God for my wife. She picked up so much of the work that I couldn't handle. And we were almost doing okay. The robot even seemed to back off for a second. I kept all the queer words out of my video titles for a while. So I decided I wanted to test and see if it was safe to use the L word again. And if I was going to do something as risky as saying the word lesbian, the content had to be squeaky clean. So I brought in the real lesbian Disney princess herself, Jessica Kellgren-Fozard. I was in palatable drag, but like she's authentically palatable, you know? The algorithm does love her. So together we made a perfect test video. Family-friendly sponsor, lesbian fashion in the title, clean content up and down and sideways. I crossed my fingers and toes and hit post. So what do you think happened? Drum roll, please. Limited. This one broke me into a million pieces. I couldn't push little Stevie down anymore. Inner child work is really intense, you guys. It's so crazy. She'd visit me in my dreams and say things to me like, why don't I have a mom and dad who love me? Why do people get punished when they're being good? If you think this is bad, guys, it gets worse. 2 years later, I was still being age restricted and demonetized and limited. I thought I was making a trade. An unfair one, sure, but still a trade. Give up my voice temporarily in exchange for a future of hopefully less persecution. But it was a scam. I had abandoned the topics that I was passionate about in exchange for future stability. And I ended up basically losing everything. But I didn't want to believe it. I just thought, I need help. I was burnt out and so is Josie. She couldn't carry the load anymore, so I thought I just need to outsource some of this labor. Enter my next mistake. Long story short, I signed with a big agency that promised like stability, sponsors, income, the works. Instead, I got fewer and fewer sponsors, less than ever, and the contract was exclusive. I couldn't find any deals on my own because of the exclusive contract. And they just kept offering me free things, free cat food, a book, tampons. I cannot pay my editor who doesn't have a uterus in tampons. I'm going to lose my mind. I was posting less, and when I did post, it was about content that I didn't care about, so my views were tanking, and I couldn't fix it. I needed sponsors to make content, and I needed to be posting a lot to get my engagement up so that I could get the sponsors, and I was squeezed again. So this time it was time to try something new. I'd already tried freeze, fawn, and flight. It's time to try fight. Instead of running away, I ran towards. Surely I'm whitelisted by now, so I can come out from hiding in the attic. So I moved to a gay city and I started to try to make gay stuff again. I posted a clean video with the title lesbian culture in it. And guess what? YouTube actually didn't demonetize that video. Instead, they demonetized my entire channel and removed me from the partner program. I was in such shock when this happened. I couldn't believe that I actually lost the fight. I came out from the attic to confront the robot and realized my house had been burning down the entire time. They weren't hunting me to stop me. They were hunting me so that I just kept looking over my shoulder while they destroyed everything I had built. So I did what any queer creator would do, and I screamed about it on Twitter and Instagram. And a few days later, YouTube apologized to me personally and reversed the decision. Great! That's amazing, right? Like calling the fire department after your entire house has been reduced to ash. Great timing. But I tried to be hopeful. I was like, okay, maybe that's exactly what the algorithm needed, you know, like turn it off and back on again, put it in rice, maybe? Hilariously optimistic. It was worse than ever before. It was like all of the algorithmic robot training I had done for those years had been completely erased. My momentum was torched. My viewership was a crater. People weren't even getting notifications anymore. Before, things were yellow. Now everything was red. Then my agency dropped me. Kick an orphan while she's sitting in the ashes of her burned down house, why don't ya? Anyway, I'd fallen for a bait and switch that tricked me into tanking my own channel. So after licking my wounds and wallowing in self-hatred, I had to face the facts. I couldn't afford to make high quality content anymore. I can't live in a burned down house, so I have to move on and build a new one. And this time I had to do it alone. I was like, okay, I need to try to do as much of this as I can myself, make the content easy and cheap to make, and make a bunch of it. I'll pivot to short form vertical content, YouTube shorts, Instagram reels, and TikTok. And like 2-ish years ago, I decided to post 3 times a week on everything. It wasn't the house I wanted to build. It was rage bait, drywall, and clickbait insulation. But at least I got a roof over my head. Right? And this is when a lot of my supporters on Patreon stopped supporting me. And I don't blame them. If I felt like someone that I supported so hard abandoned me and themselves, I would abandon them too. I wasn't making long YouTube videos anymore. And even the short form topics of content were all over the place. So I'm used to surviving without ad revenue by relying heavily on Patreons and sponsorships. Now that I couldn't rely on either, really, I started chasing the algorithm. And chasing the algorithm is a sickness, especially on short form, that I would not wish on my worst enemy. It's a sickness. It rewires your brain. You stop asking what is valuable and you start asking what is viral. I probably shouldn't say this, but I started to regret coming out at all. Why didn't I just keep making tech videos and stay closeted, you know? Why did I ever think that there wouldn't be consequences for going against the status quo? How arrogant of me. Why did I think that I was invincible? I told people it was safe, that the fear was outdated. I told them that it gets better. And I was wrong. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Calm down, Stevie. No, I don't regret coming out. That's not what this video is. I just don't know how many more times I can have those fears be proven right before I actually implode. But back to why it's my fault. This is the hardest part to say out loud. But here is my painful truth. I stopped making videos that people want to watch or even need to see. Instead, I've been making videos that piss people off. They're designed to piss people off enough to comment just to feed the algorithm so that they can help me trick the algorithm into boosting my numbers. Well, to trick it into seeing me as valuable. Guys, I think I pivoted too hard and it broke something inside of me. Honestly, some people might be cut out for this, and I respect it. But being misunderstood, misinterpreted, destroys me. I don't have that much fight left in me. And I forgot who I do this for. Little Stevie and kids like her. The ones left behind by teachers and politicians and parents. When I was hiding from a digital homophobic serial killer, things on the outside got worse, not better. Queer teachers being fired, LGBT education is under attack, employment rights being stripped, the Department of Education is being tarnished. You get it. You know. I believe that queer teens deserve to learn from queer adults who understand them in the only way that we can. That's always been my mission. Rage bait content isn't me. I lost sight of what I'm really supposed to be doing. And the worst part is that I'm scared that I won't be able to afford to do it but I'm going to try. I am going to shift my focus back to what I'm supposed to be focusing on one last time. So yeah, I've been operating at a loss for a really long time. I'm losing money fighting for this. That's my full transparency. Every single month, I fall farther and farther into the hole of debt. I've thought about taking another job, publishing a book, coming out with merch, but I'm not like other creators. I'm disabled. I can only do one thing. This job takes everything I've got and a little bit more. I'm fully maxed out. So yeah, I've got to pick one again. Don't worry, I'm not going to be intentionally become homeless again. Anyway, I don't want to be rich. I just want sustainable. I would love it if I could break even. My wife would love to go on vacation, but anyway, this is me being fully transparent. Sorry that I haven't talked about it more before now. Anyway, I'm not like starting a GoFundMe for all of my debt. That would be hilarious. Maybe, should I start a I link the GoFundMe in the description? No. If you do want to support me, the link to my Patreon is in the description. But please only do that if I've ever helped you. If I've taught you something about sex or relationships or yourself. And if you want to help me try to keep doing that for the next generation. And if you do, thank you so much. You're helping me be a little less dependent on algorithms and hiding from robots. Maybe even helping me clean up that old burned down house and get it back to normal. Should I go back to YouTube? I don't know. Oh God, what am I gonna do? Anyway, there is more than one way to help. Click the links when I say click the link. Pretty please. Like and save my videos, share them, especially the sponsored ones. I try so hard to make the sponsored stuff valuable too. And right now, I know this is on me. I've made mistakes. I really, really don't want to quit. I've been hanging on for dear life for so long, but eventually you run out of strength, you know? If I can't turn things around in the next few months, I'll have to quit. And maybe that's okay. Maybe my contribution to the world was the first ever lesbian sex education video series. And maybe that's enough. And maybe it's okay that I leave the internet forever now. But I'd regret it if I gave up without one last fight. And at least without telling you my story and giving you an opportunity to help, I guess. I don't know. So anyway, thanks for watching. And thanks for everything.